this is my review of Assassination Classroom. Okay, so this episode actually has two plots. There's an A plot that takes place for the first half of the episode, and then there's a B plot, which is what the episode is named after. So the first half involves Mei Kagoma and Yuma Isegai helping Korosensei set up for lab, and basically their reasoning is that that even with his many arms, it's still gonna end. Even though he can move at Mach 20, it's still gonna take him a couple trips without help. And sure enough, Korosensei appreciates the help. And as he's on his way to the lab room, Meg and Yuma asks Korosensei if he's settled in and feels at home. And Korosensei points out that he's as home as a teacher can feel. And sure enough, Yuma and Meg also point out that it's still a bit of a weird situation. With the not only because of the fact that he's for whatever reason teaching them despite being a super being that doesn't really need to thrive on a teacher's salary, but also because of the assassination attempts. And case in point, several of the students tried to assassinate Korosensei as he's setting up lab, and obviously it fails. So, but in case, Korosensei points out that he just feels like he can make a difference in Class E. And that's the main reason he's there in the first place. And sure enough, the students who tried to assassinate him grumble about the fact that he was able to dodge 3 knives while setting up a lab. And Karma remarks to himself that it was a little bit too obvious, and that not so much remarks to himself, but rather remarks to himself out loud, and generally to Korosensei, that it was a little too obvious, and that they should try better to hide it next time. But in case, Korosensei sets up the lab, and the lab more or less is about the fact that is for them to actually figure out how to remove chemicals and color from processed food. And although it's mainly a way to fuel Korosensei's sugar diet while he's low on funds thanks to Karma, we've established that's the reason why he's so low on funds. But in any case, as he's wrapping up and cleaning up lab, another student, Manami Okuda, walks up and quite brazenly hands him a poison and tells him to drink it. Long story short, she just hands him a series of flasks, each with a different poison inside of them that would normally kill a human. That's all I'm gonna say. It's not necessary. They're not necessarily. I'll get to them in a minute, but they're not necessarily harmful to Korosensei. And Korosensei, honored by the fact that she was so brazen and upfront, and by the fact that she put her heart and soul into these chemicals, decides to chug them despite everybody pointing out that even he wouldn't be that stupid. And sure enough, the poisons don't really do anything of substance. They don't really kill him, but they do cause him to mutate a little bit. The first one causes him to turn green and look a little bit like Sonic. The second one, well, not so much green, but it just causes him to turn blue and a little like Sonic. The second one causes him to turn green and grow wings. And the third one just turns him gray. That's all it does. It removes the smell and turns him gray. And Korosensei is thankful for the opportunity that she gave him, pointing out that she was very straightforward, but also is a little upset that she basically did all of this unsupervised, and remarks that he'll help her whip up a poison on the grounds that he keeps her under supervision, and also teaches her how to store the chemicals properly, since what she did was in fact very dangerous, and she should have had adult supervision and didn't. And sure enough, Manami is happy about the fact that she gets to have one-on-one time with Korosensei and agrees to it. And sure enough, she whips up the poison. She whips up the poison with Korosensei at her side, while everybody else is playing Assassination and badminton. And during this, Irina and Karasuma have a bit of a back and forth. Irina tries to seduce him about how it's using basically a very simple pickup line: is it hot or is it just me? Which is kind of funny. And Karasuma immediately tells her off, pointing out that she needs to save that for the actual assassination attempts. But at which point Irina just kind of breaks and goes back to her normal bitchy self, and remarks that the reason she said that was because it's basically hot, and asks him if he feels the same, and if it's not just her. So she was quite literal with that. She's like, is it hot in here, or is it actually me? It's very literal, but Karasuma confirms that it is indeed the heat, pointing out that he's put in several requests for air conditioning and other renovations, but supposedly, at least according to the upper staff, according to the other staff at the main building, there are no such funds exist, at least as far as he knows, and points out that that's just how it is. But in any case, Manami and Korosensei continue to work on the poison behind the scenes, and Manami reveals why she's so upfront with poisoning people and why poisoning is her strong suit. She implies it earlier in the episode that it's the only thing she's good at, but she implies that the main reason she reveals that the main reason she's in Class C is because chemistry is literally the only thing she's good at. She's bad at pretty much every other school subject, except for science and math. So that's why she got booted to Class E. But as she points out, she doesn't really mind, since she likes being able to work by herself on chemicals, and that's the main thing she likes. Pointing out that the reason she likes science, chemistry, and all that is because it's not so much there might be a right answer or there might not be a right answer like there are with other subjects. She likes the idea that she's able to actually look at math problems and science equations and actually see the correct answer. And she knows that there's a correct answer, and it's not just random guessing and maybe interpreting what you're supposed to do. And points out that that's the reason why she likes science so much. It's because she doesn't have to communicate with anybody else. She can literally just go in, have a concrete solution to what she's supposed to do, and that's it. At which point Korosensei, having heard all of this, hands her a piece of paper later revealed to be proper storage instructions for the poison she just whipped up. And sure enough, the next day, she brings the poison in, and stores it as per Korosensei's instructions, and gives it to him. And Korosensei decides to drink it, but it's revealed that it's not actually a poison either. As it turns out, it gave Korosensei the ability to turn himself into a fluid whenever he wants. And sure enough, now he's able to maintain his speed while turning into a liquid at the same time. And Manami is notably very upset with this, pointing out that she tricked him. But then Korosensei fires back, pointing out that the reason she was able to trick her was because she didn't realize that being able to poison somebody only gets you so far if you aren't able to actually convince your target to actually poison themselves. And basically, this entire thing was just one big learning exercise. He taught her he tricked her into making a poison that would in fact enable him to have a new ability. Also that she can teach her that she needs to communicate better in order to actually get somebody to ingest their poison. Pointing out that without a good persuasive argument for why somebody should willingly eat poison, the poison's not going to do anything. And sure enough, she realizes now that she needs to learn to better communicate, and that's why she's there. So she decides to now buckle down on the other subjects she's not good at, and decide that she's going to be a much better student. And sure enough, but then shortly after this, we actually get into the second half of the episode, which is that now the kids have to go to a school assembly, and going to school assembly time is not fun. So, because for one thing, they're all the way up the mountain, sequestered from everything else, which is bad on its own. But also, according to the school mascot Kunadon, basically it functions as one giant obstacle course that they have to overcome every single time they want to go down the mountain. And sure enough, they've got snakes, they've got bees, they got a broken bridge, they got a whole bunch of messy stuff that they need to deal with to get down the mountain. But eventually, get down the mountain they do, and eventually arrive at the school parking lot, with Karasuma and Irina in tow, with Karasuma pointing out that Korosensei stayed behind mainly for his own safety and security reasons, because they really don't want the other students knowing about him for obvious reasons. And Irina just kind of hoofed it in heels down the mountain and is out of breath because of that. But in case they go into the assembly and it is a shitstorm. It basically what happens is the whole reason the class assemblies basically involve everybody, and regardless of what class they're in, and mainly the assemblies are just a way to shit on Class E. That's mainly what they are. The presenter makes fun of them the whole time, and then doesn't give them the forms they actually need to follow along with the assembly, which notably comes back to bite Class E a lot, because now everybody is making fun of them, and basically it paints a target on their back simply for the reason that they can be bullied more easily if that's the case. Everybody starts making fun of Class E. That is until they get a good look at the teachers. So obviously, Kurasama and Irina are both knockouts in the looks department, and notably, everybody is a bit upset that Class E has special perks. But also then out of the blue, Korosensei just kind of shows up and is implied to have whipped up all the forms that Class E needed on the spot on his way down the mountain. So, and they are not entirely sure why he's there, although all they know is that he just suddenly shown up. So they're not entirely sure what he is. But all they know is that Class E apparently has perks that they're not supposed to have, and they're not supposed to have, and basically Class E isn't supposed to have any sort of benefits, as they put it. Mainly Irina tries to seduce Nagisa in the middle of the assembly, and it comes back to bite her. But in case, yeah. After the assembly, a lot of the students are notably a little on edge that Class E has so many perks when they're not supposed to, and two of the students take the opportunity to actually bully Nagisa, pointing out that he needs to show a little bit more respect, and that he needs to stop feeling so high and mighty about himself because he's Class E. And Kurasama sees this entire situation and is about to go and intervene until Korosensei, whose fake nose falls off, by the way, stops him and points out that his students know better than to roll over for a bully. And sure enough, Nagisa does exactly that. Instead, the bullies start to point out that Nagisa should really keep his head down and stop giving them a glare or they'll kill him. And that's when Nagisa goes off on them. As he points out in his head, they wouldn't even know how to kill him, and then responds out loud like you would have the balls to do it, and then just laughs him off and leaves. So, and sure enough, the bullies quickly learn that they shouldn't mess with Nagisa anymore. And Kurasama is actually pretty impressed that Nagisa was able to stand up to two bullies, despite the status quo breeding hostility around him. Nagisa held firm and just told his betters to shove it. As President Gakuho, who runs the school, and also who we see for the first time in this episode, points out after having watched the entire thing on his security monitors, pointing out that assassination and helping save the world can wait, and that he needs to restore the status quo before anything bad happens. But yeah, basically this episode had two plots, and I like them both. So these were two smaller arcs that didn't really work on their own. So the people behind the anime just kind of smushed them together, and it kind of works. And I like the idea that they actually address the fact that Class E has kind of changed for the better in the past however long this series has been going on for. And this episode pretty much addresses that right by hitting that nail right on the head. Korosensei has helped them get their grades up. Kurasama has helped them learn to be better assassins, and Irina basically just is Irina, and just the fact that she's in the room is enough to turn heads. So yeah, it's clear. So yeah, this episode basically just addresses that the status quo is changing, and Gakuho isn't really happy with that. So I'm assuming he's going to do something at some point that he's going to try and sabotage Class E and try to get them to step in line and stay in line so that system can work. Because as he also points out in the episode, the reason he unfortunately has to put Class E in the gutter so that he can bring out the best in the other students. And he admits that he isn't happy about that, but that's the way it is, and that's the way he wants to run his academy. To make it as realistic as possible, that's the main thing to take away from this. Gakuho is nuts. The way he likes his school is that everybody discriminates on a certain group, which causes them to bring out their betters, and also is meant to work the other way around and encourage the rest of the students to work hard so that they're no longer being ridiculed. But he's not exactly happy with how confident Nagisa got, and it shows. And I'm assuming he's eventually going to do something to fix what he thinks is a problem. So, yeah, that's my review of Assassination Classroom. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below as well. Oh, and also, be sure to check out my Patreon. If you guys indeed enjoy the show and want to help support me, then my Patreon is the best way to do that. But in case, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!